One thing that I talk about in my book, Raising Amazing, is what it means to be an all-in parent. And I think this is really important as life is so busy and we're all juggling a whole lot, but to slow down and say, would my kids say that I am an all-in parent? Am I showing up in ways that communicate to them that I am fully on board for them and there to support them? Being an all-in parent is not being a helicopter or snowplow parent. It doesn't mean that we're hovering over our kids, micromanaging all the things that they're doing. Being an all-in parent doesn't mean that we don't have a life of our own and that all we do is parent and neglect other areas of our life or self-care or even our marriage. No. Being an all-in parent simply means we're communicating to our kids that we take our job as their parent seriously, that we are intentional with the choices we make. And so a few ways that you can be an all-in parent, well, one is to be fully present. We live in such a distracted world, and I don't know about you, but I know I struggle with my own phone, my laptop, but sometimes putting that phone away, closing the laptop, and just looking our kids in the eyes and being fully present is one of the best ways we can communicate that we are all in for them. Be a person of your word, following through with promises, showing up where they need you, doing what you say you're going to do, being a person of integrity. That communicates to your child that you are trustworthy and that you are modeling to them what it looks like to be committed in a relationship. You're following through with your word and being who you say you are. You are showing up where they need you. You can't be everywhere all the time. You can't show up for everything your child does, but there's some things that really matter. So I encourage you to look at your child's life and say, what's going to speak to them the most? Is it showing up for their games, for their recitals? Is it showing up for some performance they have? Or is it showing up when they get home from school in the afternoon to just sit and talk and listen as they tell you about their day? Every child's going to be different. They're all going to have different needs, but showing up where they need you is going to be really important to your child. Enjoy your kids. Kids spell love, T-I-M-E, and so you want to be there for them to just enjoy them. That might mean getting out and doing an activity together that maybe you did when they were younger. Oftentimes, especially with boys, being shoulder to shoulder is a great way to spend time. They tend to open up a little bit more when you're out going for a walk, driving in the car, maybe taking a hike or going for a bike ride, but enjoy your kids. They're going to feel like you're all in for them when they know that you're enjoying just spending time with them. It's challenging in today's world. So much of what we do is on our phone. I work from my laptop often. And so for me to be really intentional when my child walks in the house to just put things away and just go sit down where I'm available. Doesn't mean they always want to talk to me, but it means they see that mom is there and that they're my first priority. Also, with my grown kids, when they call me from college or when they're out and about in the world far away from me, I try to put everything away and just sit down where I can listen and be fully engaged. And I sometimes think they can hear it in my voice when I'm fully available and present in those conversations. It's easy for me in our busy life to make so many different commitments. And because kids love you unconditionally, sometimes it's easy to break a commitment with them and keep another commitment. Maybe I've signed up to do something for women's ministry in our church, or I have a job commitment. I tell my kids, oh, I'm sorry, I told you I'd do this, but now this came up. So I try to be careful because I don't want to take advantage of that. I want them to still feel like they are a priority. And so sometimes that means I need to break other commitments so that I can show up for my family. And I think that's really important. It's not always easy. It's not always possible. But I think if they know that you're doing your very best to show up for them when they need you, that's going to speak volumes to our kids. Because kids are around us all the time, especially if we homeschool, they see us living out our everyday life. And sometimes there's little things that can easily slip by, and we need to remember that they're watching and they're taking note. So when my kids were little, I remember a time where I checked out of a Walmart store. We all get to the car. I've got a baby and the toddlers all there. One of my boys pulled a pack of gum out of his pocket. Now, in that moment, I was very tempted to just brush it off and drive away. I'd already dropped a couple $100s at Walmart. What's a pack of gum? But I knew that the oldest kids were watching, and I knew that what I did would speak to them about future decisions that they might make. And so there we went, packed everybody back up, went back into the store to make sure that we paid for or returned the gum. And I remember in the moment feeling like so frustrated that I had to do that, but also knowing that that small act of integrity was setting an example for my kids to follow. So I can't say I've always done it perfectly. They hear us talking on the telephone. They hear us making appointments or dealing with other people when they're out and about in public with us. So how we're living, are we showing them a life of integrity? And if we are we living in a way that we hope they'll model after? Now, none of us will ever be perfect, but we certainly, by God's grace, can try to take steps towards living a life that's honorable and that's setting the very best example for our kids. And to me, that's part of being an all-in parent. And I think of times where there's a conflict in the home. Maybe my kids have seen my husband and I get into an argument, and everything in me wants to say, well, I was right. And, this is just the way it is. And everybody gets into an argument now and then, but realizing that my kids are likely to model after the example I'm setting in the home, that my kids are learning more from my actions than the things I've told them, has inspired me, even when it's hard, to own my mistakes and to say in front of the kids, sorry to my husband, to ask for forgiveness, to turn to my kids and say, I just spoke to your dad in a way that wasn't very respectful. I'm really sorry. Yes, I was passionate. Yes, I believed what I was saying was right, but the truth is I had no business speaking that way. And so please forgive me. And I want to do better. I want to honor your dad, and I just want to use my words better. Recognize when you've made a mistake and humbly ask for forgiveness. I think as parents, sometimes we feel like we have to be right all the time, or we have to model for them what it looks like to live the very best life, but they know we're human. By the time they're teenagers especially, they've already figured out that we're not perfect. So one of the most important things we can do to be an all-in parent is to simply own it when we make a mistake. Ask forgiveness, let them know that you've already asked the Lord for forgiveness, and then ask them how you can make it right. Kids are going to be probably more impacted by our humility and our transparency than they are when we do get everything right. So be quick to be humble and ask forgiveness, and your kids are going to know you're an all-in parent.